Hey folks, it's Shay here, and I just wanted to introduce to you a reading from a book that I've just recently discovered thanks to a beautiful custodian of the land that I'm living on. It's called Survival into the 21st Century. It is an absolute classic book, Planetary Healer's Manual, it says, written by Viktoras Kulvinskas. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but it was written in 1975, around 50 years ago, and he was planning for the apocalypse, planning for a big change to come in the world, and with an external perspective on a very limited observation of what is happening currently in the world, particularly in Melbourne, all across the UK and Europe, and even in the United States, there is so much civil unrest, so much distrust, so much collapsing of systems that we've come to know and trust, rely, and depend on. And with that awareness that things are we're starting to see through the veil, let's say, I find it's a little bit scary personally and can be really daunting. I have this somewhat sense of helplessness as what's going on in the greater picture of things. And oftentimes, even when I look at the environment, I look at all these things happening in the outside world, and I have to take a deep breath and remind myself just to center and come back to balance, and also continue to focus on the solutions. What can I contribute to, put my energy towards? What can I prioritize in this moment that is going to benefit the karmic cycle of life moving forward for myself and those around me? And often I'm reevaluating, realigning, configuring what is it that I need to be doing now in this moment to stay in balance, to stay centered. And I'm really curious. I just want to thank you for joining in. I'd love to hear from you what you do to stay centered and balanced, and what tools or tricks or practices that ignite your life to stay centered. Because what I've realized most of the time is actually doing less, doing nothing, being in stillness. And it's the hardest practice of all, just to sit and just to observe and be aware of what's going on in my mind and what's going on in my body, and telling myself just to sit and be patient, and noticing that, wow, I just want to get up and move and shift and go on and do all these things. And what's the relevant in all of this? And I just wanted to share the relevance of this book, Surviving into the 21st Century, the Planetary Healer's Manual. I'm just going to share some small snippets from the book that I feel is relevant. And if you like this and you really enjoy it, I'll go deeper into the book, because there's some really valuable tools that, and again, has written nearly over 50 years ago. And the relevance of it just speaks volume to what we're experiencing here on planet Earth right now in this moment. And I don't really feel to go into all the fear of what's been pumped into us right now, the coercion, the manipulation, the propaganda, all the elements of what we're experiencing. But again, to focus on the solutions. What can we do? What are they? What can we contribute back towards? And just to introduce this book, again, the idea is that it's written for us to just take the nuggets, take the gold. It has a huge variety of topics, ranging from edible grasses to yoga and tantra, to understanding different elements of our human body and our anatomy, our human physiology, as well as going back into the garden, how to grow food and purify water and harvest energy, and all of these beautiful concepts. And so I just really feel really excited by this book, because it's still around, and it's likely that there's not many copies left of this book. This one is, as you can see, getting a little bit tattered and old on the ridges, and I just felt to share it on a video. Mostly I'll just be introducing the book today, but just to share it, to store the energy, to capture and store the energy and share it, because I've found in my life what is most relevant for me to stay centered and grounded, especially with what's going on in the world, with the amount of energy that is amplified right now to shift and to change, to move into a new paradigm, that having a focus, prioritizing self-sufficiency and spirituality, those two keys, self-sufficiency and spirituality, as a priority moving forward in my life, is going to benefit me and also those around me. And so how can I stay grounded in the experience of life on this planet, but focus on those so that I can be more secure, safe, and whole within myself, and allow that to benefit my community? So if you're tuning in now on the live or watching the replay, just drop us a comment. Let us know what it is that you do that brings balance into your life. When you notice your scale of energy and emotions amplifying and getting a little bit crazy, what do you do just to bring it back down to balance, bring it back into that calm state? What practices do you do? Do you go for a nice cool off in the water? Do you go and play some music? Do you go and draw and write? I'm just curious. And I want to share this healing manual for new practices, new ideas of what we can do to really be embodied in this human experience moving forward into this new age, the new Aquarian age. And so you'll see I'm just sharing a couple of nice really photos that I captured recently on my drone when I was down in Ellie Beach. And I'm going to scroll up further. Here it is, the Survival into the 21st Century Planetary Healers Manual. And so moving forward, this book, essentially, it aims not to be a one or fix or cure you. This is definitely not, medical advice. This is simply educational information that really offers a way of life, a lifestyle that we can tune into that is in alignment with the natural laws. These methods for healing that are suggested can really amplify our human potential if we trust, believe, and practice them to a greater capacity. And so by tapping into nature's law, then we have this potential to regenerate the body, to heal it, to look at our unresolved emotional trauma, heal it, and also, regain the beauty and prolong our life, the youthfulness, the vitality, the love and abundance and joy. While we're healing and regenerating our own cellular makeup, we can also then put that out into the world and contribute back to healing the world through replanting and working in the natural cycles, growing our own food, being self-sufficient. And so, again, I just want to also just second what the author has said here, basically saying that I accept no responsibility for any application or integration of the laws that are contained within this book, because there are some things that are very, very potent and powerful. And so up to each individual to carry out and practice those themselves. Now, he goes on to explain in the book where we've come from, which is really vital, I find, to explore our history. Where did we come from? What have we experienced in our history so that we know not to repeat it moving forward in the future? And we can learn from history so that we're not doomed to repeat the history again, repeat the same mistakes. And so in this book, it looks at, how in history we have abused nature's laws by bringing in, major ecological crisis on Earth, destroying the environment, the misuse of sexual functions, this famine, the darkness of pollution. There's so many elements in our existence and life on Earth that we can see has kind of this negative, destructive connotation into our experience. And so, again, observing and knowing that exists as a possibility, what are we using? How are we alchemizing and shifting that narrative to look at what the solutions are, what our potential is, what is necessary to prioritize and focus on to embody a heaven on earth experience? And again, the two fundamentals that I really want to emphasize on today, number one being self-sufficiency, number two being spirituality. And you might think, oh, well, why is that relevant? Why do I have to practice any of that? Well, there's great reason to be self-sufficient. The more self-sufficient we are in our lives, in our gardens, in our homes, the less dependent we are on the external influences. And oftentimes what we're noticing, a big part of the world that we find ourselves in, is this failure of the external parties. The failure of, let's say, the person who mistreated us, or the failure of government systems, or the failure of the hospital, or the failure of this and that, and that can leave us feeling potentially very bitter and resentful and upset and angry and ultimately unresolved. And so the key in the question is, what do we do to resolve that? How do we bring that back in and look at how I have contributed to that, but also even more so, what am I doing to resolve this on a greater thing and bring it back home into wholeness? Key questions here. And you'll see that this book is very powerful. I just got a comment coming through. Thanks for sharing. So powerful to have these resources. Thank you, Amber. What a sweetheart. That's very sweet. But moving forward and looking at this book, I feel the key element that I really want to focus on is that there are solutions available. And in fact, you can survive. You know, the key here is that the spirit of humanity, the spirit of the land, the spirit of life is timeless, is boundless, and is very much a part of us. It's very much a part of our existence and who we are. And ultimately, this book, you know, is ways on which we can not just survive, but also furthermore thrive. What does it take to thrive in the world? And what we can identify is that as these old systems crumble, when we look at, as an example, somatics, we got somatics, which is the simple example is when you have a sound frequency. So we have a speaker that's amplifying music. On top of the speaker, we have a glass plate. And then on top of the glass plate, we have very fine sand or salt. And we're playing a certain frequency, let's call it pattern A, sound A. And then we change the pattern, we change the frequency, we change the channel, and we get another sound frequency. Let's call it pattern B, or let's call it, sound B. And so we can identify here there's two different patterns, pattern A and pattern B. But the key thing to focus on, and what we can identify, is it makes these beautiful sacred geometric forms when it's played at a really harmonic frequency. But the key thing to focus on is that pattern A to pattern B, there is also the in-between, right? So it goes from pattern A, beautiful, looks amazing. It goes into chaos. It just, the salt and the sand just goes everywhere, and it looks like an absolute mess. And then it goes into pattern B. So I want to focus on that mess in between, that chaos, and finding the order and trusting in, having faith in the space in between, and knowing that in divine intervention and timing, that this pattern B is going to eventually unfold and find its harmonic resonance, its frequency, and find its pattern and its order and its harmony. And that's what I feel this book can really help us to digest in a really functional way, how to actually trust in the process of life unfolding as it should. And I'm mostly sounding this out for myself, but I really hope this is adding value to your life in this moment. And if it is, please let me know what stands out for you. But for me, the main purpose that I'm sounding this out is for me to allow myself just to drop in and trust and allow the process. And when I look back upon my life and I really observe the moments in my life where I went against my intuition and did that thing that made my stomach turn, and I knew it was going to be a little bit, wasn't great for me, it ended in a bad, well, let's not say bad, but it ended in a more of a negative response. But when I had those moments of actually trusting what was within me and trusting my instinctual understanding of what I feel called to, and I followed that, and I just allowed it to unravel without any urgency or without force or without kind of control or holding on, the process was blissful and amazing. And so moving forward with this book, I feel that these are essentially some really, really alternatives, let's say, looks at how the body can be healed by eating the right foods with love, with intention, with every little bite. And, ultimately what it mainly suggests for us to incorporate into our lives is this idea of being in service. And when I can recognize on a spiritual level that there is more to me than just this physical vessel, that I am a part of something bigger, then my role on earth, my purpose, my sense of belonging to being here is fulfilled when I'm acting in service, when I am unconditionally giving that sense of responsibility to share that just because that's what I want to give, without taking and consuming and absorbing. And in this competition mindset, it's all about me, and survive. But what can I give back? How can I really come from a place that it's all about an opportunity to lovingly accept and serve the greater whole, the greater community, the greater picture that is unraveling right before our eyes. And yeah, it's an exciting time, and I'm super curious to see what unravels, because at this moment, I try and, often to look into the future and kick the can down a long road and imagine what life for myself and my family and my friends will be like in, let's say, a year or 5 years' time. But never before have I felt so uncertain about what that future could look like. And I want to invite you to also practice this from your own home. It's called a mind movie. Dr. Joe Dispenza shares it a lot. And opening up and projecting in your mind and getting yourself to that state of heightened, elevated emotion and exploring what life for you could be like in your ideal situation. And so you could still practice that. But when I try and imagine what I would like to be doing in a year's time, there seems to be so much outside of my control, so much that I don't have the potential to, fully embody. But when I know that there is a possibility for unlimited potential, then I can ultimately be free and truly imagine and make manifest those wildest dreams. And that's something that I really want to encourage you to explore in this moment right now. What are your wildest dreams? What do you really want to make manifest in your life? And just write it in the comment section. Let me know. I'm super curious to hear, because sometimes I don't realize that my wildest dreams, the only person that's stopping me from actually achieving them is often myself. And so, having said that, the focus in life right now, there's a lot of things to pull our focus. And I can recognize that, a lot of the news, let's say, or a lot of the current affairs or weekly updates, it's going to be easy to pull our attention and attraction in our minds. And I'd really love to just focus on this moment right now for each of us to drop all the externals and continue journeying deeper within. And so I just want to thank you for joining me in this video. I really appreciate you taking the time to just have a listen and watch and connect. And I really want to encourage you to maybe just take a moment to, what I do every evening is just switch off the Wi-Fi, turn it off, close the eyes, drop into the body, feel the senses, and really feel what it is to be alive in this moment, because it's truly a magical time to be alive on planet Earth, and so grateful that we're here doing it together. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you very shortly.